Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we've got a year-end favorite pickups of the year video. I thought that was a great idea. Somebody recommended it to me, and I do listen to my my peeps, my audience. I love the feedback. That's one of my favorite things about this whole setup that we've got going on, Channel Ram, is that it really does feel like it's a little fragrance family. Feels like a fragrance community. Feels like we're citizens of a beautiful fragrance town, and we can all participate and add our 2 cents, and everyone who lives in the town is a perfume lover, and there's no shitheads. You know, that's my dream town anyways. But invariably there's going to be one or two shitheads, but they're very easily kind of pushed to the side. And it's just really about perfume. That's what this is all about. And this is, I think, a cool way to talk about a lot of fragrances, which is what having a fragrance channel is all about. Talking about fragrances, giving your opinions, getting feedback from others, learning about new fragrances, discovering, and there will be some more early impression videos. I have so many fragrances I have not talked about on the channel. I have decants, samples, you know, discovery atomizers, all of this stuff that I want to talk about, sample sets of whole houses I haven't gone through. So now that my nose, I feel like, is kind of back from not being able to smell for a bit. I don't know if it was COVID or what, but it is that time of year. It is going around. So we're going to talk about my favorite pickups of 2022. I'm a little ill prepared. Usually I'm very prepared when I hit play, but today I'm a little ill prepared. I'm going to reach behind me. I'm going to grab some stuff, you know, just because I want to talk about my favorite buys of 2022. Now that we're, you know, a couple weeks away from the end of the year. And there's a few more things coming. I have an unboxing I'm going to do really quick. This is something actually that I never heard of. Speaking of learning from you guys in the community, I actually learned about this thanks to one of you. This was, my attention was turned to this by Armando, who really seems to have found the type of scent that I like. It seems like everything he sent me has been a little bit of a home run. And he told me about this line, and I was very interested in it. Number one, it's discontinued, right? That's already I enjoy putting the checkbox next to discontinued fragrances I'm interested in. And number two, it's a leather line. And he sent me a sample of one. They're a little hard to find. Some of them are much easier to find than others, but this is supposed to be the original Pierre Cardin Centaure. And Centaure, as you can see, look, the front and the back is exactly the same. How's that for crazy? There's the note listing, and look, it is a short ingredient list. So, I mean, we're already talking my language here, and I got this for 20 bucks. I couldn't really say no, and look what came. I was not expecting this. Look what actually came in the bottle. Pierre Cardin Centaure. Does that look black to you? What is this? I thought it was going to be... Okay, this is a little bit of a surprise because I thought it was going to be... Yeah, I thought it was going to be the one that did not have the horse head on it yet. So I'll have to send pictures of this to Armando and get his feedback. So, but this is surprising, but in a good way. The black horse head version of Pierre Cardin Centaure. Let's see, Pierre Cardin, just real quick. Centaure. I think what they sent me is called Diamant Noir. Came out in 1998. Oak moss, green notes, wood, and citrus fruits. Not the one I was expecting, but that's okay. We'll roll with it. It sounds like a fragrance that I would love. I mean, I really like the old stuff Pierre Cardin put out, and I was expecting, if you look up the line, there's actually one that looks like this. Very similar box and everything, but it doesn't have a horse head on it. It was called the original Centaure, and that was the one I thought I was getting, but apparently... Oh, I mean, oh well, I'll take it. I'm going to try to collect this whole line. So I will take it. We'll take it and run with it. Where do you want to live, Centaure? You can live right here for now. We'll find a home for you later. Okay, so there you go. A little intrigue to begin the video. So these are fragrances purchased in 2022 only. If it was 2021 or if I owned the fragrances before, I'm not including it. These are new purchases I purchased this year. To be fair, there is a lot. I have done a lot of buying. Probably went a little overboard if you listen to my wife. But I got some amazing stuff here to discuss with you guys. So let's get started because this is going to be a pretty lengthy video. But first, I want to do scent of the day because it's an amazing scent of the day. Speaking of discontinued fragrances, I don't have my rag, or do I? Ah, yes, I do. Aha, aha, aha. Okay, so speaking of discontinued fragrances, I wore this today to work, and my God, it was beautiful. Tom Ford's Noir Anthracite. Now, this is a creation by Honorine Blanc, and it's Sichuan pepper. And this, by the way, along with Journey Man, this one right here, this along with Journey Man are probably the two best Sichuan pepper fragrances I've ever smelled. Actually, the Sichuan pepper in this reminded me of Journey Man today. I've only worn this one time before today. So that is one of the problems with having a big collection, is that you don't always get to wear your favorite fragrance unless you just make it a real point, you know, because you're trying to wear as much of your collection as possible. So I rotate everything. And I had only worn this once before, and when I wore it, I didn't pick up on the heavy presence of Sichuan pepper. Today, for some reason, I don't know if once air got into the bottle, it sat, whatever it was, but the Sichuan pepper came out much stronger. And it almost feels like a spicy, hot take on pepper. It smells nothing like pink pepper. Sichuan pepper is very distinctive to me. It almost smells like you're smelling it in like a Thai food dish or something, you know. But the patchouli in this fragrance is much more amped up. It's compared to Narciso Rodriguez, for him, Eau de Toilette, which is also discontinued. But that relies more on the musks, whereas this, I feel like, relies more on the resinous green galbanum. It made my galbanum video yesterday, and the patchouli. And there's some very interesting notes in here, like tuberose and jasmine sambac, which you would not think fit in a masculine perfume. You would think it would make it feminine. It doesn't. This is extremely masculine, extremely unique, and it's a shame that one of the most original and creative Tom Fords to have come out in the last decade gets discontinued because it just doesn't sell. I'll tell you what, man, that pepper opening is perfect. It's just a perfect Sichuan pepper opening. I love it. I'm so glad to have the big boy, the 100 ml bottle. Okay, so let's start with a couple Diors. So some Diors, and if you follow the channel, you have seen many of these fragrances. Okay, you've seen many of them shown throughout the year that I've had this set up. I think I basically had this setup done in about March, if I'm not mistaken. March or April, somewhere around there. If you see my video where I'm in a different room with a different background, not this background, that means I think it was probably the end of 2021 or early in 2022, the first quarter of 2022, let's say. So that's a good way to gauge it. But Dioressence, I got this year from, I think, Anuj at Enchanté set this bottle aside for me. And this fragrance is basically a Flora Chypre by Guy Robert, and it's almost like you're smelling three different fragrances. It opens up so aldehydic and fruity and green and fresh, and you're like, okay, I think I kind of know where this is going. And then it takes a turn, and you get this powdery orris floral heart, and then you start thinking, okay, this is just a Flora Chypre, and it takes another turn on you, and it kind of dries into this resinous, slightly oriental, with a beautiful ambergris dry down. It's such a creative fragrance. I have come to really love and appreciate this, and I'm very glad to have this bottle because you can really feel the quality here. This is better than 99% of the Dior Privé line that they put out nowadays that they charge 350 bucks for. You know, just imagine the last 10 releases in that line. This is better than all of them. So You know, the people who are just buying the new privés at retail, they don't realize that some of the best work ever is in Dior's past. And that's true for many houses, I understand. But I'm so glad I discovered Dioressence. Do not let the fact this is for women put you off. So glad to have discovered that this year. And then there's a couple of Geoffrey Beene fragrances I got this year from Anouge. And even though I had a bottle of this in 2021, I got this bottle this year. I got this vintage bottle of gray flannel with the writing all inside, and you can see the 88.5 proof, 120 mil. This sticker down here, you can't really see it because it leaked. If you go watch my unboxing video of this Enchanté unboxing video, when I got this, you could see the silver all over the outside. And when it leaked, it kind of took all of that sparkly part off. The bottom said Jacqueline Cochran. Here, I'll show you what it said. Was it listed here too? Yeah, Jacqueline Cochran ink. You can see it on the bottom of the bowling green I was about to show you next. That's what Jacqueline Cochran ink. And I'm pretty sure that proves that this is an 80s bottle. And this is amazing. So Al Manzano told me when we talked on the phone the other day that this was reformulated in 1994. I'm not sure if he's 100% on his dates. That's what he told me. And you can definitely smell the difference between this and what's out there now. I hear the one that's even out now is still good. It was marketed by French Fragrances Inc., but it is discontinued. According to Parfumo, it says it was last marketed by French Fragrances Inc., so it's discontinued. And I am very glad to have this because there is something very special about this scent. 1975, it's got that mixture of violet leaf with that green galbanum. It's so outdoorsy when you first spray. It's like looking at a beautiful rolling hill. This is called bowling green. This could be called rolling green. It's like a rolling green hill with beautiful flowers all across the hill. And it's so textured, and the fragrance is such a beautiful textured fragrance. And that almondy tonka oak moss vetiver dry down mixes with the flowers. I think it's the floral heart that puts men off. Geranium, iris, mimosa, narcissus, rose, violet. That's a huge floral heart. And then you get neroli in the top, which adds that fresh, when you first spray, neroli adds that fresh vibe like you're outdoors, and then you see the flowers on the rolling hills. It's beautiful. Also, a fragrance that I've really come to love and appreciate. I hope it's not. I hope this isn't leaking. There was some liquid on top of this. But this is the fragrance that Geoffrey Beene put out. So Gray Flannel came out in 1975. Bowling Green came out in 1987. It was originally released as a cologne, okay? The cologne is discontinued, and this is the cologne version. The Eau de Toilette is also officially now discontinued, but when I got this earlier this year, it said that the cologne version was discontinued and the Eau de Toilette was still available to be purchased. So they just discontinued the Eau de Toilette as well of Bowling Green. Bowling Green is much more of a take on a fougere. It feels like you're smelling a green, piney take on a fougere, okay? So, you know, if you're a fan of something like Gucci Nobile, or if those kind of fragrances are your favorites, if fougere fragrances are your favorites, even something going back to the 70s, Paco Rabanne Pour Homme, I would urge you to give this a try. This is quality. Now, this is the cologne, so I can't speak to the Eau de Toilette, and I think this is an 80s bottle because, again, it says Jacqueline Cochran, which I think proves that this is a 1980s bottle. It's an old tester that Anouge had laying around. But God, the oak moss, I mean, you can just tell from the second you spray, even if you blindfolded me, I could tell from the second this is sprayed that there is a huge dose of oak moss in this fragrance. There's just no way to replace that feeling, that texture. Both of these are beautifully textured, and I'm very glad to have secured them this year. Another fragrance that Anouge, I think Anuj found this one for me as well at Enchante. I'm not 100% sure, but this is a splash eau de parfum version of Paco Rabanne La Nuit, which means the night. And this is a beautiful floral chypre that reminds me a little bit, if you like fragrances like Chanel's Coco, which is also coming up on this list, if you like Crizia Teatro alla Scala, so Coco came first, then La Nuit, then Teatro alla Scala came out. But I think I like Teatro alla Scala the most just because it's the closest I really, you know, it's like the closest to my heart. There's something about Teatro alla Scala. If you want to see just how excited Teatro alla Scala made me, go watch my unboxing video. But this is a beautiful take. Jean Guichard actually made this, and came out in '85. Great year, by the way. And it just has so many notes that I love. It does have a little bit of fruitiness. It's got a little bit of green touches, got beautiful florals, but it's that leathery civet animalic dry down that sells me on it all the time. It's a floral chypre. And oh man, it is just, that peach is really, really prominent. It's a prominent note. They use the peach kind of in the same way that, you know, Mitsuko uses the fruit, but it feels so much more like it feels more like you're smelling something like Coco or Crizia by, Teatro alla Scala by Crizia. But La Nuit is a fantastic Paco Rabanne fragrance that no one talks about. And then, again, this is another one where I had a bottle of this, but it was a modern bottle. I got it in 2021. And this year I was able to secure a vintage version that is issued by Bijan Fragrances Inc. instead of 5 Star Fragrances Inc. And I did a comparison video. Go watch my comparison video if you're interested, but they really almost smell like two completely different fragrances. I mean, it's almost like you're smelling two separate fragrances when you first spray. When they dry down, they become much closer, the 5 Star Fragrances modern version and the vintage version. But somebody also told me, see how it says Eau de Toilette on the back? I thought this was the very first version. It's not. It's the first reformulation. The original version was issued as a Eau de Cologne, not an Eau de Toilette. So the original Bijan Man that came out in '81 is an Eau de Cologne. But the sandalwood, patchouli, amber, musk combo with that citrus top, it's so good. There's almost like this honeyed facet too to this, even though there's no honey note listed. It's beautiful. Very glad to have the vintage. And then a couple Maison Francis Kurkdjian fragrances which were on my list. It's not a house I rate very much. You know, his new release, that 724, whatever they call it, that is not my kind of fragrance at all. That bland, boring, musky, clean, you know, those kind of fragrances do nothing for me. I'm not interested in those. I also hate Baccarat Rouge. I'm a huge Baccarat Rouge hater, but I knew I liked the brand because I knew they had some gems, because last year I secured a decant of Ciel de Gum, and Ciel or de Gum, I guess if you want to try to be a proper pronunciator, Ciel de Gum. And Ciel de Gum is one of my favorite amber fragrances ever, and I'm very lucky to have secured a partial bottle, thanks to my Polish superwoman, Natalia. But this is the vanilla amber combination with that pink pepper and jasmine and Ciel de Gum, like, completely sold me. So I wanted to hunt more from the house. And there were two that I set my sights on. One is called Absolue pour le Soir. And this is probably one of the most dirty, pissy, animalic Francis Kurkdjians of all time. It basically got discontinued because it didn't sell very well, is what Francis Kurkdjian said. And when the house of LVMH purchased Francis Kurkdjian, the house, they are all about sales. You know that. LVMH only cares about the almighty dollar. They don't care about the art of perfumery like we do. And so they discontinued basically their best fragrance, in my opinion, which is Absolue pour le Soir. And this is a beautiful amber as well. I know I said Ciel de Gaume is my favorite amber. This would give it a, from Francis Kirkjohn, not of all time, but I actually ranked my favorite ambers. You can go watch that ranked video yourself if you're interested in my favorite ambers. But this is this pissy, animalic, honey, Bulgarian rose honey with cumin. And it does give it a little bit of a pissy vibe. The thing that put me off about this fragrance, though, at first, wasn't the pissiness. I'm completely fine with that, actually. It is the plasticky smell in the opening. When you first spray, there's this almost in your face, almost blatant, almost like he's not trying to hide it. This extremely plasticky, you know, feeling to his creations. Like, you know, he's telling you it's completely synthetic, doesn't smell like anything in the real world, and you're going to like it. And that kind of put me off a little bit. It became one of the fragrances where I had to wear it 3 or 4 times to bed to kind of wrap my head around the smell, the idea, the concept, how the fragrance changed, because there were moments where the first time I wore it, there were moments where I was like, okay, it's turning, and then it would seem to immediately turn back and my nose would just like reject it. And so, but once I got over that hump of accepting it, now I love it. Now I'm so glad. And this is another reason why I do not sell fragrances. Because could you imagine if go watch my early impression video of this and you'll see I was let down. I was disappointed. I was like, oh man, this is kind of plasticky and cheap smelling and it doesn't smell expensive. And I was kind of let down. And if I would have just turned around and sold it, I would have missed out. I would have missed out on basically my favorite MFK fragrance. So glad to have a bottle of Absolue pour le Soir. And Rudy helped me find that. So thank you, Rudy. Shout out to you. Again, community aspect to this hobby. And then the other one from the house that I was very interested in hunting down is just called, and this one's not discontinued. It's still available. I don't know my version. Well, I can show you the batch code. It's 18309, but I don't know anything about MFK batch codes. But I got this from my friend Lee from Fragnanimous. He sold me this partial bottle at a very, very fair price. And you can see, I mean, partial, look how much juice it is. Barely any taken out. The tiniest sliver. And he sold it to me for like $100. Lee from Fragnanimous. And that's his website, by the way, fragnanimous.com. Normally, it's where I get my Bortnikoffs, sometimes a Riesler Doré if he has overflow stock. You know, if a Riesler Doré has enough bottles to sell to people like Lee. Melegs and, you know, those kind of fragrances. The indie houses are really what he carries, but he also carries partials. And so I got this at basically a steal. This is one of the most beast mode fragrances I've ever smelled. Again, you have to get over that. Even if you know what, you know, even if you know what oud smells like, real oud, even if you smelled real oud, there may be a drop or two of real oud in here, I don't know. But again, there is this extreme plastic, synthetic, you know, created in a lab. You know, there's a bottle that Halston did that I've shown on my channel a couple times before. I got this last year, so I can't include this in this video. But I wanted to show you the bottle. It looks like a test tube beaker. Like they put some drops of stuff in here and kind of mixed it up, right? Like a science project. That's what MFK's fragrances to me smell like. You know, they smell overly synthetic and completely unrealistic. They smell like he's using ingredients that he got from another planet. And so they take a little bit to grow on you. But if you're a fan of beast mode fragrances, my God, like when I sprayed this one day, a couple like drops drizzled down onto my notepad and I could smell it for a month. I mean, it is a huge, gigantic fragrance. And this is just the eau de parfum. This is not even the extrait. So whatever molecules he's using, some of the strongest, but also because it's almost like a give and take. You know, okay, you want the strongest in most beast mode molecules, but you're going to lose that natural feel. You want it to smell more natural, it may not last as long. MFK went full, like, you know, when you get points at the start of a video game and you can allocate it to certain characteristics, he just put everything into beast mode and just nothing into natural smelling is when I smell his fragrances. That's what it feels like to me. But I do, that's the thing, is I like it. I like these two. Other ones I've smelled, not so much, but I like Oud Eau de Parfum and Absolue Pour le Soir. Okay, so let's talk about some Chanels that I got this year, because I've been very lucky on some Chanels, and I was able to find, thanks to Moudasir, by the way. Moudasir's on Base Notes, because people ask me that every time I mention his name. They're like, who's this Moudasir you speak of? So Moudasir is M-U-D-A-S-S-I-R. Just go to Base Notes and look him up. He's been selling fragrances on Base Notes since the late 90s. Or he's been selling fragrances since the late 90s. I don't know if on Base Notes, but he has the highest ranking on Base Notes I've ever seen. His feedback is phenomenal. I know because I've dealt with him. He sent me, you know, free bottles when I bought stuff from him. He's made mistakes and instantly corrected it. You know, he's that kind of guy. So I can easily recommend him if you're looking for hard to find fragrances. He's come through in the clutch many a times. And he found me this. This is a partial of Chanel's Bois d'Azil, which may not sound like a big deal, but it's the discontinued Eau de Toilette. And this is probably my favorite designer sandalwood. Now, I say designer because probably my favorite sandalwood would be from someone like a Riz La Doré, or one of those houses where you're smelling real Mysore or real sandalwood distilled in the year 2000, or, you know, something along those lines. You know, you're not smelling molecules. You're smelling what, to me, when a Riz La Doré did, for example, Centaure Galore. That's probably my favorite. That would be my holy grail sandalwood scent I would love a bottle of one day. This is probably more of like a woody floral, but for a major house, this is a revelation. This is a brilliant sandalwood, probably one of the best. It captures sandalwood. It's almost like if you could just take a picture of a beautiful sandalwood tree growing in India, right? And you just take a picture of that sandalwood tree and just bottle that picture. That's what Bois d'Azil reminds me of. From everything, from the wood, you know, that milky, spongy, soft, just relaxing sandalwood feel. Sandalwood's a very calming note. I've said that before. And a Russian Adam actually told me one day, there is scientific proof to back that up, that there have been experiments done where, you know, they will listen to people's heart rates and blood pressure, and whenever someone smells sandalwood, it will just slow down their heart rate. It'll put them in a calming state of mind. It's a very zen-like fragrance smell for me. But there's also this beautiful Chanel posh, this champagne-like pizzazz when you first spray this. And this also has a note of ylang ylang, which on first, you know, when you first hear that, you might think, I don't know about that. You may not want ylang ylang messing with the smell of the sandalwood, but it complements it beautifully, because if you ever see a picture of sandalwood, it has these little red flowers that grow off of the tree, very small red flowers, and somehow the floral combination with the tonka, vanilla, you know, citruses, it just smells like they captured not just the wood, but as if you've got your nose right up to the tree and you're smelling a little bit of those red flowers coming through. I have no clue what they smell like because I've never smelled a real sandalwood tree. But it gives me that impression. And I think it's just a masterpiece. I think it's the best sandalwood fragrance I've ever smelled, as far as like just from one of the major houses. I would take this over Guerlain's Samsara even, if that gives you an idea of how much I rate Bois d'Azil and Eau de Toilette. And then probably now again, this is unranked. I'm not ranking these, but if I was, this would be right there at the top. Top three for sure. Top three for sure, 100%. And this is Chanel's Antaeus Sport Cologne. So this is the Sport Cologne. And thank God Anuj at Enchante found me this bottle. So this is like, the way that I would describe this in a Cliff Notes version is, imagine you take Antaeus, because this came out in 85. I thought this only lasted a year or so, but someone recently sent me a picture that showed a Sport Cologne bottle in a box that had a barcode on it, which means this had to have at least lasted 4 years, because I think barcodes came out in the late 80s, like 89. I thought this was like a year or two and gone, but apparently maybe it did last a little longer than I thought. I thought Chanel just abandoned the project immediately. But there's still, it's a very rare fragrance. Many people don't even know Antaeus had a sport flanker. But the Cliff's Notes version is, imagine you take Antaeus, you remove the myrrh, okay? Because the original Antaeus has a resinous myrrh note, which I absolutely love. So you remove the myrrh, but you keep the animalic, castoreum, and maybe you add like a little bit of vetiver and a touch of peppermint and pimento at the top to make it a little bit more fresh feeling, and that's it. So whereas the myrrh kind of obscures the animalic castoreum that you're smelling, in Antaeus Sport Cologne, it's like you can peer directly into its heart. There's nothing stopping you from taking your binoculars and peering right into the heart of Antaeus Sport Cologne. And what you find, if you're an animalic lover, will please you. This is some of the best castoreum ever done on Earth, in my opinion. This and the original Antaeus are, you know, castoreum royalty. And so, yes, this is like, this could be a signature scent. Like, if you forced me, which I wouldn't want to do, but if you said you're going to have a signature scent, you can have one for summer, one for winter. It could easily be Sport Cologne for summer and Antaeus for winter, and that could be it. You know, it could be my lifetime scent. It's that good. So let's stay with Chanel, because there was a Chanel that I got from a friend in Italy, and this is one of the most outrageous bottles in my collection. It actually came sealed. I think I still even have the seal. Yeah, here we go. Here, this was the seal that was on the bottle whenever I got it. And this is I think this is a 1960s bottle. He said it could even be 50s, but I don't think it's that old. I think it's a 60s bottle. Look at this. This is just, I mean, this is Chanel's Cuir de Russie in Eau de Cologne. So I have the Eau de Toilette, and this is one of the best leathers of all time. Eugene from the channel You Smells Good did a top leather fragrance video today or yesterday, I think. And Cuir de Russie was like, he highlighted as his favorite leather of all time. And you know what? I could not disagree with that statement. I mean, for me, I say Bel Ami or Antaeus. Antaeus or Bel Ami are my two favorite leathers, but this is right there. This is top 3, you know, leathers of all time for me. And, you know, the Eau de Cologne does feel a little bit different than my 80s Eau de Toilette, which I love. So I love that 80s Eau de Toilette that I have. And, you know, again, just speaking about the Cliff's Notes version, God, look at this. I mean, if you flip it over on the back, you can see the 75 proof on the inside. Look at the bottom. Look at the sticker. Look at that Chanel sticker. Crazy, man. And Cuir de Russie is leathery, spicy. It's got that Chanel sparkle in the top. Bergamot, mandarin orange, clary sage, orange blossom, lemon, iris, jasmine, carnation, rose, vetiver, ylang-ylang, cedar, amber, heliotrope, leather, and vanilla. And, you know, forget about the notes. What it makes me feel, what it makes me, you know, what I see and feel when I wear this is the world 120 years ago, you know, or take yourself and put yourself in Russia, And imagine you're there with Anastasia, with Tsar Nicholas the Second, I believe, before the communists murdered his entire family. You know, imagine you're there with them when they ruled, and they're at a beautiful ball, and there's chandeliers more grand than you've ever seen, and everyone is dressed in their best, and there's, you know, food as far as the eye can see, all of the best food you could imagine flown in because you're with the Tsar, right? And yet, even though they have all of that, there's no running water. There's, you know, no cars. There's no highway system. There's no internet. You have to go get in a horse and carriage. And when you get in the horse and carriage, you know, the horses have that animalic horse smell to them, right? So even though you're just encased in luxury, it just cannot remove the fact that you are in a situation where there's going to be some animalic smells. Even though you're just, I mean, almost like you have a luxury bubble around you everywhere you go, you're still going to smell that horse shit, right? You're still going to smell the unwashed mane. You're still going to smell, you know, when somebody goes to the bathroom in the outhouse. You're going to have those dirty smells. You're still going to smell, you know, the women of the court that maybe haven't showered for a week or two because it's tough to draw a bath. You know, it's not easy to draw a bath without just a shower or running water. That's the smell. That's the feel. That's the idea. And it's beautiful. The difference between this, the Eau de Cologne, and the Eau de Toilette, which I love so much, is the Eau de Cologne is a little bit more floral. And I mean floral as if you're smelling like a vintage bottle of number 5 Eau de Cologne. Remember number 5 Eau de Cologne? Men used to wear a lot of number 5 Eau de Cologne because it had the civet and a little bit more vetiver. And vetiver historically is that earthy, dry, rooty, somewhat green note that usually leans masculine, but they used to put it in a lot of feminine fragrances back then. And so it has that vetiver and floral combination with a touch of civet, and this has that vetiver or floral combination with leather, so castoreum most likely instead of civet. But the flowers remind me of the older versions. They remind me of the like an old bottle of number 5 Eau de Cologne. So that's the difference. It's still one of the greatest leathers I've ever smelled, and this is like an experience every time you put it on. This is one of the best buys of 2022 for me. Okay, next we've got another Chanel. This is a recent one. I decided to buy this instead of Bel Homme. We'll get to Eugene's brand later on in the video, but I decided to buy this instead of Bel Homme just because of the way that the iris was done here. I just thought it was brilliant. And I got a very good price thanks to my friend Bry. And this is 31 Rue Cambon in Eau de Parfum. So I know I've been showing the Eau de Toilettes, Eau de Colognes. Here's an Eau de Parfum, and I love this. This is, when spring rolls around, I'm going to wear the piss out of this. And look at this bottle. I mean, God, this 200 ml Chanel bottles are so beautiful. They just feel so good in the hand. Bergamot green notes, which I think is a little bit of galbanum and maybe some other Chanel posh green notes they threw in there. Black pepper. The iris in this is, my God. Iris, rose, ylang, patchouli, and cistus. Get back here, cap. Magnetic cap. Bottle. Strong enough to hold the bottle. It's just beautiful. I am in love with this fragrance. I'm so glad to have it. 31 Rue Cambon. And then we've got a 19, I don't know when this is, but it's a short ingredient list, and it's got the oldest Macy's sticker you'll ever see on there. Although it is 45 bucks, so maybe it's not that old, but it must be old, somewhat old. Look at that. And look at the ingredient list. This is Chanel's Coco in Eau de Toilette. A brilliant fragrance, one of the best feminine fragrances of the 80s, in my opinion. It's right there with Paco Rabanne La Nuit and Teatro alla Scala by Crizia. and another one I'm going to show you here very soon. So Coco is Jacques Polge. A year before, he made a fragrance called Ungaro Diva. And Diva and Coco share a lot of similarities. It feels like Diva was maybe like the trial test run. Honey, man, I just love, you know, and Teatro alla Scala does the same thing. I just love, there's something about the way that Oriental Chypre vibe blends with honey. This animalic honey just with the civet. It's just a pure love for me every time. Every time I wear this. And I swear I could even wear this in warmer weather. I know most people consider this a pure cold weather scent, but there is some freshness. There's some orange blossom, which gives it a little bit of freshness and angelica. And so, I mean, I know it's an Oriental. I know you're supposed to wear it in cooler weather, but God, I just love Coco. That could be a anytime fragrance for me. And then a new addition, which I cannot wait to talk about on the channel, is the Cologne concentrate version of Egoist. And this only did run for a couple years, and then they discontinued it. Look at that. It's just beautiful. I love Chanel's presentations. And this is another Anouge at Enchanté find. Thank you, my friend. You've been very instrumental to my 2022 pickups. And this is discontinued, of course, but it's coriander, mahogany, mandarin orange, rosewood, carnation, rose, cinnamon, amber, leather, sandalwood, tobacco, and vanilla. It really is like Egoist, but just more. That's the way that Rich Mitch described it, and he's right. It really is like Egoist, but just more, just a little bit more, just more of everything. And you know, what's interesting about it is you could probably just call this an eau de parfum, but the thing is back in the day, they didn't think if they named it eau de parfum, men would buy it. So they named it cologne because that's what men wore. Men wore cologne. They didn't wear parfum. They wore cologne, but it's a cologne concentrate. So it's one step stronger than a cologne. And, you know, the original Egoist was an eau de toilette. So this is basically like them just saying eau de parfum, but in a way they thought men back in the day would buy it. That makes sense. So Cologne concentrate of Egoist. Can't wait to talk about that on the channel. And then we've got 4 Frederic Malls I want to talk about that I picked up this year. Actually 5. I'm sorry. I lied. 5. They're all amazing. I've been on a Frederic Mall kick lately. Unfortunately, I did discover, I do think their scents after Estee Lauder bought them are different. I have to take that back. On my Frederic Mall video, I originally said I didn't think that it's a house you have to worry about reformulations. I've changed my mind, okay? The RAM was wrong. I do think that, as someone said, the Estee Lauder accountants are going in there and playing with the formulas a little bit. But here's one that I found that I absolutely love. Probably one of the only bottles in my collection I wish I had a bigger bottle of. Not that I need any bigger bottles, but I love this stuff. It's Rose and Cuir. And this came out in 2019, so there is no pre-Estee Lauder bottle because this was an Estee Lauder launch. And Rose and Cuir, I think, is one of Jean-Claude Elena's masterpieces that very few people talk about and rave about. It's floral, it's green. The geranium and wood combination with that fruit. Speaking of Sichuan pepper, I know I said this and Journeyman are 2 of the best Sichuan peppers. Here's another one. This has a beautiful Sichuan pepper note in the top, but it's that, oh God, you know, there's no rose in this. It's geranium, and it really feels, you know how my brain instantly went to geranium with that is because there's a geranium note in a flanker of Equipage called Equipage Geranium. And the way that he used the geranium there reminds me very much of how he used the geranium in Equipage Geranium. But whereas Equipage Geranium is all about that sandalwood dry down for me. This does have a little bit of leather, and it uses cedar wood and vetiver, so it still feels like geranium and woods. I love them both, actually, and I would wear them both in the same situation, Equipage Geranium and Rose and Cuir. But I think this is brilliant. This might be my #1 mall warm weather fragrance. This and Music for a While are my two favorites. Geranium Pour Monsieur are still a little on the back burner for me. I can't love it yet for some reason. Maybe if I found a pre-Estee Lauder bottle, maybe a vintage of Geranium Pour Monsieurs in order. If I ever find one, I'll grab it, but Rose and Cuir's, I think, amazing. And then, speaking of amazing, and I need to wear this soon now that it's really cold. It's going to get down to 7 tomorrow here in Texas, which is damn cold, 7 degrees Fahrenheit. And again, this came out after Estee Lauder purchased them, so there's no pre-Estee Lauder bottle. This is the Moon by Julian Rascanet. My God, man. This is amazing Middle Eastern. This is Middle Eastern perfume done right. Raspberry, lychee, saffron, red currant, frankincense, Turkish rose, oud and leather. Oh, it really feels, it does feel like you're smelling a little bit of a hookah, like a raspberry hookah, if you will. But that lychee note with the frankincense and the rose and oud and leather, God, my kind of fragrance, man, through and through. The only thing I'll say is there have been some folks in the community that the amber woods have put them off. Luckily, I'm very lucky, I guess, because I don't fall into that camp where if I smell an amber wood, it really bothers me. I can appreciate it in certain compositions. Luckily, this is one of those compositions. So if you like Middle Eastern perfume, this is, you know, this is as good as you're going to find in the designer / niche realm without going to indie. And then a recent pickup, but one I'm very, very blessed to have. And again, this is thanks to someone in the community. Armando tipped me off, said, hey man, here's a pre-Estee Lauder Parfum, Le Parfum de Thérèse. And I sent him 10 ml decant as a thank you, hence the little chunk out of my bottle. I hope you enjoy it, Armando. It's really good. Jasmine, mandarin orange, melon, pepper, nutmeg, plum, rose, violet, leather, vetiver, and cedar. And I watched a video of Michel Rudnitska, his son, talk about this, saying that he thinks that this is Edmund Rudnitska's masterpiece. How's that for a statement? But he says that the plum note, you know, most people on the inside who know fragrances really pick out that plum note. And he used a plum note in Rochas Femme too. In the 1940s, which you might think, damn, this came out in 2000. 1940s is a long-ass time ago. But this was created in the 1950s for his wife as a bespoke fragrance. It just was released in the year 2000. And, I mean, it's basically like a take on a fruity floral leather chypre. It's beautiful. And that melon note in the top reminds me of the way that melon note is used in Diorella is the one that Edmund Rudnitska does. You'll get hints of Diorella, and you'll get hints of Ocean Rain. If you've ever smelled Ocean Rain from 1990, that also could be on this video. I mean, hell, I'm talking about it. Here, let's grab it real quick. This was in a Nuge find as well at Enchanté. Ocean Rain. This is a 1990. This is his final fragrance before he passed away. And the way that the melony, antiseptic, ocean-like vibe, green, you know, vibe, you'll get bits and pieces of that from Le Parfum de Thérèse, I think. Brilliant composition. I mean, it's from the master. What more do you want? It's from the master. I'm going to add Ocean Rain to the list here. And then, this is one I wore to bed the other day. I'm infatuated with this. This is my new favorite rose. It's a vintage bottle. This is what the original mall bottles look like. Look at that. See how different it is? Even from the pre-Estee Lauder bottles. See what the original mall bottles look like compared to the one I just showed you? Look at this. So this is an original bottle of Lipstick Rose. There's no cap. If there was one, it would be a matte cap. But I wore this to bed the other day for the first time. The amber, musk, rose, vanilla, violet, vetiver combination basically comes together to give you basically what it says on the bottle. You get this lipstick, and it's like every girl I've ever wanted to kiss in a bottle. You know, like the taste of their lipsticks. Every girl I have kissed, let's say, that's been wearing lipstick with rose. It's beautiful. There's just something stunningly beautiful about it. And I mean, as a guy, this is very interesting to wear because, like I said, you're constantly thinking about the girls that you've kissed in your past. And yes, this is marketed towards women. I think this is completely unisex. It's just a stunning smell. I love it. Slightly powdery, but more cosmetic. Kind of like Dior Homme Intense is described as makeup-y. There's a little bit of this makeup-y vibe with violet instead of iris. Very, very interesting fragrance. And finally, I picked up L'Eau d'Hiver this year. Excuse me. And this is a pre-Estée Lauder bottle. L'Eau d'Hiver is Jean-Claude Elaine's take on Après L'Onde. I decided to get this instead of a vintage bottle of Après L'Onde just because they're impossible to find. I would love to smell the parfum version of Après L'Onde. I've only smelled the Eau de Toilette, and I was very taken with it. Very proud of my review of Après L'Onde. But this is Jean-Claude Elaine's take on it, and it's very, very good. He added angelica and honey, but it's that irisy heliotrope, anisic aldehyde, whatever they call it in the opening. Beautiful carnation note, green carnation, love it. Okay, let's get a move on it. There is a fragrance called Jubilation 25 for women. Here it is. Whoops, that's gold. Hang on. That's gold, woman. This is the one that I want to highlight. Jubilation 25, Jubilation Ladies is what this old tester says. Or this, yeah, this is a tester. But I don't care. This is a little 30 ml tester, I think. Comes in this little pouch. Look how Amouage used to do it back in the day. Very cool. And this is stunning. I mean, I love Diaghilev, and this is like Diaghilev meets Rochas Femme meets vintage Amouage gold because of the way that rose ylang-ylang combo doesn't sound like it would be an Amouage signature, but it is. Somehow Amouage found a way to combine that rose ylang with frankincense in such a unique way that you just think Amouage instantly. And there's beautiful myrrh and ambergris and patchouli and vetiver. And they left a note out, I think, because they thought it would put people off. And that's cumin. I think there's a big cumin opening in Jubilation 25. Someone said they just smelled Diaghilev for the first time recently in the comments of one of my videos. And they said they thought it smelled like Etruscan water. And I said, no, I don't really think it smells like Etruscan water. I think it smells like this. This is the one, I forgot what to tell them, but it smells like Jubilation 25 for women, for me. Not that they smell the same, but that would be my comparison. If I had to compare Diaghilev to anything other than like Rochas Femme meets, you know, Azure meets Bandi meets Mitsuko, I would compare it to Jubilation 25 for women. It's beautiful. This is such a great fragrance. I'm going to wear the shit out of this. I'm so glad to have it. And this is thanks to Dushan. You know, he didn't send me this bottle, but he sent me a sample, and it got me realizing I do need a bottle of that. And then this is from Moudessir as well. This is Amouage. It's called Amouage Gentleman's Cologne or Gentleman's EDT. This is basically like a spicy, powdery take on that Amouage DNA with one of the most beautiful Omani white frankincense notes in the dry down. For summer, man, this lemony, floral, white frankincense, I mean, it smells so posh, like you're a sheikh, like you're a sultan walking around your palace in the Middle East. I mean, that's the vibe that it gives me. I love it. Hard to find, discontinued, but very good if you ever find it. And then, probably my favorite Cecile Zarokian fragrance I discovered this year, which is Epic Woman. And I did a video recently comparing Epic Woman to Epic 56 or whatever the extra version was. And I love this stuff, man. It is so good. Cumin, pink pepper, cinnamon, damask rose. The rose and geranium in this is beautiful. Jasmine, tea. That tea note reminds me a little bit of Silver Mountain Water by Creed, but it's so relaxing. Just the tea note, not the fragrance, just that particular note. Amber, Gaiac wood, iris, musk, oud, patchouli, sandalwood, vanilla, and frankincense. I mean, a stunner. And this almost like was a punch me in the face moment. Why haven't I been looking at the women's scents from Amouage? I recently did a video on Imitation Woman, and that is full bottle worthy too. So what can I say? I've been slacking. I've been sleeping on the women's versions. Okay. One thing I did this year that I probably would do differently, I tested Silver Oud, and I really liked it. It came from the 50 ml bottle from 2021, and I bought it, but I got a great deal on the 100 ml, the new 100 ml from Amouage. I hate this freaking presentation, man. I really don't like this presentation, really. It says OMAN right here. But let me just show you real quick. You know, it feels light as a feather. It doesn't feel like there's any weight to it. You know, they standardize these bottles, which is fine, whatever. But the juice kind of worried me the first time I wore it. I'm going to let it sit now that I had some more air in it and revisit it. But I was worried that maybe they tinkered with it when it went to this new version. Would they reformulate something that just came out a year ago? I don't know, but Silver Oud was a love. Go watch my video. I think this is the best thing they put out since the Fishman Renault Salmon took over Amouage. And so I just hope it's the same fragrance as the 50 ml. If I could redo it all over again, I would probably buy the 50 ml version in the old Opus bottles, but you know, it's my fault. I did it. I had a feeling. My gut was telling me don't do it, but it was like $100 more for 50 ml more juice. So I figured, what the heck? And anyways, we'll see how it works out. It might be fine. It might just be, you know, first spray, there needs to be some air in the bottle, that kind of thing. And then another fragrance I got this year is called Jean Patou Voyager. Voyager is discontinued, and one of the greatest marine scents of all time, because real quick, the story goes that Jean Carleo, who's one of the greatest perfumers of all time, in my opinion, full stop, he was forced to do a marine scent. Chanel or whoever owned them, I forget the name, basically came to him and said, you know, we've been asking you to do an aquatic scent for years. You're our in-house perfumer. We're now demanding that you do it. This was 94. And all he wanted to make was fine French perfumery, classic, you know, lots of oak moss, sandalwood, cedarwood, real Mysore sandalwood, which this has, by the way. This has real Mysore sandalwood in it. And I got this bottle for like $40. It's like insane, because no one knows the brilliance of this. They think, oh, it's a shitty aquatic. It's not. It's a shitty aquatic for about 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes max. And then it dries down to this classic lavender, sage, oak moss, sandalwood, and cedarwood combination. Real Mysore sandalwood. For the summer, this fragrance is like a dream to wear. If this is the aquatic for people who hate aquatics, let's put it that way. It has that weird, you know, terrible ship on the front of the bottle, that cruise ship. Don't worry about any of that. Just know it's a Jean Carleo, and it's a masterpiece. Everything he touched was gold. Okay, let me talk about a honey fragrance I found this year that I absolutely love. This is MCM Success. One of my favorite honey fragrance finds this year. Spicy, resinous, tobacco, honey, orange. Oh God, this leather dry, it's so good. Backup bottle worthy good. And this bottle was made in West Germany. That's how old this is. Again, an Anouge find. Anouge has dedicated greatly to the cause this year. There's a fragrance I actually could not find. I wanted to show you guys. I I got a partial, here we go. I did find it. I got a partial of Cardinal's Healy. And this is this is probably the best incense scent I found this year. I got this from Moudasir. And Cardinal's Healy, or Healy's Cardinal, I should say, is a beautiful incense with a little bit of myrrh and labdanum, ambergris, and there's this sparkly ambergris patchouli vetiver dry down. A little bit of pepper in the top, and they say a linen note. I don't know if I can agree with smelling a linen note, but it's a beautiful frankincense. Lovely. If you're a fan of frankincense, this is definitely one to sniff out. I still have never smelled Avignon, but it's on the to sniff list. And then, this is from my friend Lee from Fragnanimous. This is Lau Oud by Bortnikov. He sent me a sample, I think, at the end of 2021. And this is one of those situations where I sniffed the sample, loved it so much that I needed to buy a full bottle. So, Lau Oud is an amazing coffee with Indian oud, Laotian oud, a little bit of beeswax, a little bit of cacao absolute. It's like a mixture of Oud Maximus and Oud Monarch. So that's my Bortnikov find of the year. And then a tobacco fragrance. Actually, there are a couple fragrances from this house that deserve to be discussed that I got this year. One is called Accord du Désert. And Accord du Désert, C-O-E. There he goes. Accord du Désert is the extrait version of L'air du Désert Marocain. I got this year. Beautiful amber. Beautiful amber with that balsamic ambergris dry down that Andy Tower, Andy Tower's Tower Odd is like a ambergris replacement, and it's a beautiful creation. So I don't really care if there's real ambergris or not in there because he did such an amazing job creating it. And I also got this is Sundowner, one of my favorite tobacco fragrances. That cinnamon, cacao, and tobacco with cypriol, ambergris. I really feel like this is return to form for him. It feels like Andy Tower is back. For a little bit, it felt like feels like this was like the last great thing he made in 2016, and then he kind of went away. Now he's back with Sundowner for me. This is a return to form. Beautiful. I love tobacco is an easy sell for me, to be fair, but this is another one where I sampled it, loved it, bought a bottle. And then one that was sent to me for free when I purchased a bottle off of a friend. He's like, hey man, I'm going to throw this in for free because it's not my taste. I think you'll really like it. He was spot on. It's actually the reason I did not buy Royal Tobacco by Amouage. This is Iron Duke. Plus, I think Royal Tobacco hints slightly at Tobacco Oud, which I have a bottle of and I love wearing. So there's really not a reason for me to own Royal Tobacco. But Iron Duke is a stunner. Tobacco, liquor, oud, animalic notes, gunpowder, whiskey, hay, leather, charred woods. It smells like you're in a tank and, people are firing the tank's gun. And, the people behind you are freaking out because they think they're going to die. So they're drinking, smoking. You can smell the burning, wherever the round hit, it exploded and burned earth, and it's got that charred feeling. It's an insane fragrance, but I absolutely love those kind of fragrances. And then, I know I mentioned Dioressence by Guy Robert. This is Chamade by Guerlain. I got this year, and it's really grown on me. This is one that's really, really grown on me. This is probably one of the fragrances that took the longest to grow on me. Aldehydes, lilac, galbanum, clove with that resinous dry down. They're very similar, Dioressence and Chamade, but Chamade has that Guerlain in it, and you can really tell that's where the difference really comes in for me. Plus, there's differences in other parts of the note breakdown as well. But they're, Chamade at first I was like, I don't really know, but it definitely grew on me. I'm going to reach behind me one more time here and grab a fragrance from Bois 1920 that I got this year. I got this from Moudessir, and this is called 1920 Extreme. This is a discontinued Bois 1920, and one of their best, actually. Woody, spicy with bergamot, lavender, clary sage, geranium, bourbon vanilla, sandalwood, jasmine, Brazilian tonka bean, and cedarwood. It will remind you a little bit of a niche Zeno by Davidoff, or let's say Guerlain's Heritage. This is a great fragrance, but it's in that it's in that realm, and it also smells like there's patchouli in here. There's no patchouli note listed, but I get a big chocolatey patchouli vibe in it as well. So, but it's my kind of fragrance. You start talking about Zeno or Heritage, and I'm in. And then, actually, there's a YSL fragrance I wanted to show you. Again, I told you I wasn't prepared, but this is Noble Leather. So this was a Moudessir find for me. Very hard fragrance to find. Oh man, I love this. Leather, dried fruits, vanilla, patchouli, saffron. And yes, there is an amber wood notes in here, but I don't care because it complements the fragrance so well that it doesn't bother me. I'm very lucky in that facet. I could see how it could put you off if, you know, if it's a note that really gets to you. The amber woods in here do not bother me, luckily, but you guys know I love my leathers. This is a beautiful take on a leather, different from Tuscan leather or something like that, but still very modern. And then, speaking of modern, this is the exact opposite. This is a vintage fragrance with a short ingredient list. You can see right there the short ingredient list. Alcohol, parfum, that's it. Pascal Maribito OR Black. One of the final Jean-Louis Suizac fragrances that have been eluding me. And this is a fragrance right out of my dreams. I mean, if you like Jean-Louis Suizac style, you have to try OR Black. Pepper, sage, leather, cistus, benzoin, vetiver, amber, Tonkin musk, oak moss. It's just a dream. I mean, if you like Jean-Louis Suizac style like I do, where I say Bel Ami is like my favorite fragrance of all time, do not sleep on this OR Black. But be careful, because there are a different version and it's been reformulated. So you want to make sure to get one with a short ingredient list if you can. I just hear that the reformulated version, while it's still a good fragrance, is different. I've never smelled it, though. And then I want to show you a Givenchy. This is Givenchy 3. This is a Jean-Francois Lati and Raymond Chaillan, one of the greatest. Raymond Chaillan is like a, you know, legend. Like, stick a statue of him in front of IFF or wherever he worked. Beautiful, discontinued, floral Chypre. If you like YSL Y, not the one for men, but the one for women from the 1960s, the very first fragrance YSL ever put out, this is right there with it. Right there with one of the greatest floral Chypres of all time. And there's a little bit of castoreum and real ambergris in the base that gives it this funk that I absolutely love in my Chypres. If you like the funk of something like Diaghilev, because Diaghilev has some funk. It's got that, you know, sexual innuendo vibe. So does Givenchy 3. Beautiful. But it focuses a little bit more on the florals, but that's okay because the, you know, breakdown is so beautiful. Okay, one of the best buys of 2022 for me, right, would compete with Chanel Sport Cologne. Honestly, it's that good. I sent some to Armando. He said he really liked it as well, but it's Kinski by Kinski. I'm in love with this fragrance. I don't know what it is. It's cannabis, aldehydes, juniper, blackcurrant, nutmeg, rose, magnolia, castoreum. It's the castoreum, man. It's just the castoreum. And he dosed it so high. I love that. Kinski was a crazy guy, by the way. I think this is the best Giza Schoen fragrance of all time. I think this is his masterpiece that no one smelled. It's like you know, it's like a Mozart symphony that he wrote and never saw the light of day. Oh, God. Patchouli, vetiver, cedarwood, styrax, benzoin, labdanum, suede, musk, amber. Oh, I love it, man. I love the animalics. I love that cannabis opening. It's probably the best cannabis fragrance, honestly. I've never smelled it. I like the way the cannabis smells in this more than the cannabis in Black Afghano even. I think Black Afghano many would consider to be a better fragrance. But I mean, it's that kind of crazy. It's that kind of crazy fragrance. And then, as a leather lover, I very luckily scooped up a bottle of Cuir de Lancôme for a decent price. And Cuir de Lancôme is bergamot, saffron, jasmine, patchouli, hawthorn, ylang, birch, iris, and styrax. So it's got a little bit of smoke from the birch. It also has a floral heart. It's kind of a floral take on a leather, but I really like it. Apparently, it's supposed to smell like a very famous old fragrance that I can't remember what it was called. Okay, let's do an Ungaro fragrance. This is called Ungaro Pour L'Homme 1. So the original Ungaro Pour L'Homme from 1991. Look at that note listing. It's beautiful. And this is also in that Escada Pour L'Homme, Guerlain Heritage, DNA, spicy, floral, okay? But it's beautiful. I love this DNA. I'm so at home in this DNA. So Ungaro Pour L'Homme 1. And then fragrance of the year, or we'll say top 3. It'll compete with, for me, Kinski, Chanel Sport Cologne, and this are the buys of the year. La Dahlia Exquise by Les Abstraits. There is something, again, Castoreum Absolute in this is out of this world. It's a rose patchouli with iris and cumin, clove, saffron, Atlas cedar, Spanish labdanum. It gets very resinous and dirty in the dry down. A Papanax and myrrh. And God, when that castoreum comes out, man, a little smoky. I think it's the rose. I mean, everyone has their own favorite rose patchouli. This is mine. I mean, it has nothing to do with the fact that I'm friends with Eugene. Absolutely nothing. It's the way that the fragrance is made. Antoine Lee hit it out of the park with that one. And then there's a Le Male flanker called Essence de Parfum, which is discontinued. It's kind of like a guilty pleasure because it is sweet. It's an osmanthus leather that is a little bit sweet and designer. You know, if you like fragrances like CH Men, the original, the sweet violet grass one with leather, check out Le Male Essence de Parfum. That's a modern fragrance that I actually enjoy. There's a couple from Parfum d'Empire that I got that I really liked, and one is called sorry, I told you I'm not prepared here. So one is Ambergris, and this is a sparkling champagne with vodka and ambergris, cumin, and then you get the amber. One of the best modern ambers, in my opinion. The other is called Tabak Taboo. This is a 2017 bottle. You can see right there at the bottom. Immortelle, honey, tobacco, and this very sensual, almost like a soft human skin. If you know that sensual skin accord, you'll pick it up. Wild grass, it's a beautiful, spicy, floral take on tobacco. And then the Eau de Parfum version of Musk Tonkin. And I got all these this year. This is an amazing musk with Hyrax, Hyraceum, and Tuberose. One of my favorite takes on Hyrax. Oh man, very, very good musk. If you're a musk Kublai Khan or lover of something like Salome, check out Musk Tonkin. And then I have to show this. It's Boss Spirit. Luckily, this came from a friend. I love this. Ultra green, smells like cannabis in the opening with this deep 80s leathery dry down. One fragrance that I don't talk about very much yet, but I will, I got this year, is called Cacharel's Nemo. I think Enchanté, Anouge at Enchanté has more bottles of this. It's a very strange fragrance, but it's spicy, woody. It may not completely blow you away, but it's very well done. Very, very well done. It's lavender, caraway, carnation, labdanum with a little bit of leather in the base, and I like that. This is very wearable to me. Very wearable. And then I also got a bottle of this Giorgio Beverly Hills fragrance called Giorgio Beverly Hills VIP. Really nice, spicy, woody fragrance, but it dries down to this posh, irisy leather. I love leather and iris. And there's leather iris with loads of oak moss. It doesn't have the honey of its younger brother, Beverly Hills, Giorgio for Men by Giorgio Beverly Hills. But it's really very, very good. Very well done. And then there's two Rosias I got this year that I would like to highlight. And they're both in these white bottles. And again, these are my favorite pickups of the year. So one is called Just Rosia. Just Rosia, that's it. Rosia, you know, Haut Luxe or whatever they call it from 2013. And this is a great fragrance with, you know, yes, it has little gold flakes in it. I don't care about that. It's just, God, I just love, it's grown on me so much. This fragrance has grown on me so much. The florals, the resins, the iris. I thought it was a labdanum bomb when I first got it. Yes, there's a ton of labdanum, but it's also a shapeshifter. You get different things in different leather and different weathers. There's nothing I've smelled that's like this. Now that I've smelled it more, it does have that Guerlain like dry down. I will admit there is a feel like you're smelling a vintage Guerlain, but I've smelled nothing like that, honestly. It's amazing. And do I think it's worth $3,500? No, but like Jonathan said in his video the other day, who pays retail? You know, everyone gets stuff at discount. So you can find that for $1,000. Is it worth it? Sure. Yeah, I mean, if you've got the money to blow and you're a fragrance connoisseur like we are, that is a banger fragrance. Another one that's probably worth high hundreds is Great Britain. One of my favorite leathers of all time. I think this is a beautiful Russian leather. I love wearing Great Britain. If you've ever smelled Cuir, I think this is a better version of Cuir. The violet, the iris, the carrot seed, the ambrette, the labdanum, the leather. It's just, you know, again, just extremely comfortable. Love wearing these. So they had to be highlighted as my two favorite Rosia pickups of the year. Now let's see if I can get them put away. Come on, baby. There you go. Okay. Couple more and we'll be done. Next is called Bulgari Falkar. And this is, again, from a friend who gave me a very fair price. This is leather, oud, black musk, and saffron. And I've enjoyed this. I wore this once as my scent of the day. Nice little precious stone on top. It does feel like a Louis Vuitton fragrance because it was done by Jacques Cavalier. But I like it. It's woody, leathery, and the bottle's grown on me too. You know, the magnetic cap doesn't come across on screen very well. And this does look cheap, I will admit. And it feels cheap, listen. But it does feel good in the hand, and I like the magnetic cap. And I like the fragrance. It feels like a Louis Vuitton. You know, is it worth $350, $360? No. But if you get it at a reduced price, is it a good fragrance for this style? Yeah, it is. I'm a fan. Okay, a couple more. So there's a leather fragrance that I was lucky enough to score recently from the house of Orito Parisi called Quoium. And I have really enjoyed, I wore this to bed a couple times. Okay, there's no note listing because Alessandro Gautieri does not release the notes, but it's very smoky, leathery fragrance is how I would describe it. Very smoky and leathery. I'll talk more about it once I know the fragrance more, but if you like his style, which if you like black Afghano or stuff like that, and you're a leather lover, there were some on eBay for 99 bucks. I think that's a great deal. And then I want to highlight this. There is a fragrance that I recently got, and I wore this to bed. Captain Molyneux, the vintage version. The new version I hear is not as good. There's the note listing. It's thyme, cistus, rosemary, provincial lavender, Scots pine, Indian sandalwood, Lebanon cedar, Singapore patchouli, ginger, Ceylon cinnamon, and Zanzibar clove. If you've smelled, you know, Paco Rabanne pour homme and you like that style, if you've smelt a Zaro pour homme and you like that style, check out Captain Molyneux. You know, it's somewhere in that woody, fougere, green, piney 70s fragrances. Very, very good. The oak moss in here is beautiful. You want what oak moss smells like? Check that out. I also scored a bottle of this, and I really like it. It's called Safari Extreme. This is the limited edition version. Someone told me that they think that the regular version smells better than this. I don't see any differences listed in the, you know, databases. Is it true? Can anyone verify? I would love to do a comparison video because I really like this. And it's this mango Middle Eastern oud vanilla musk thing, rose oud vanilla musk, that even though it doesn't smell super extraordinary, but the smell is just so beautiful and pleasant, a little bit woody, and very ambery. I really like it though. I would be interested to know if there's differences, if it's differences or just rumors. And then I got this the other day on Russian Adam's recommendation. This is Scherer 2. And boy, let me tell you, floral, spicy, violet leaf, Mysore sandalwood, castoreum, civet. I got a decant from Rachel. And that's how I know I love this, is I was able to wear the decant and realize it was full bottle worthy. Oh, tuberose in the top. It should not put you off. Wait for the dry down. It's unbelievable. Oh, that's such a find. And I'm going to end on a high note. There's actually two high notes here. This came from a friend. Again, you have to make connections in the community. You'll never find the really, you know, you'll never get the really good deals, and you'll never find the really rare bottles unless you make some really good friends in the community. You have to make connections. This comes from years of being in the community, participating, knowing people. This is Russian oud. One of the best chocolate ouds of all time. It's got that lava-like amber in the dry down. This is one of the best fragrances I've ever smelled in my life, ever, period. The way that the oud comes across is just, it's out of this world, you know? It's smooth without being boring. It's animalic without being too challenging. It's one of the best oud, you know, myrrh, frankincense, labdanum, ambery. It's just amazing. And it does have castoreum, which you guys know I absolutely love. And finally, I need to highlight this. This is not a full bottle, but this is from Armando, and he sent me one of the best leather fragrances I've ever smelled in my life. I'm looking for a bottle. It's Santa Maria Novella Eau d'Espagne in the vintage gold foil label bottle. And my God, man. This can compete with Bellamy. I mean, this can compete with Antaeus. This can compete with Canite 10. This can compete with Koros. This can compete with Chanel's Cuir de Russie. It's that good. I'm telling you, it is that good. I'm not hyping it. I'm just telling you that when I smell this, the fragrance, and wore it, it's one of the most brilliant leathers I've ever smelled. And it came out in 1901. That's what's so insane about it. Peau d'Espagne completely blew me away this year. So that's my favorites from 2022. Let me know what some of the favorites you picked up are, or some of the favorites from my list are. Love seeing your faces in the comments. Thanks everyone for watching. Cheers, guys, and hope to see you again before Christmas. Bye-bye.